Okay, welcome everybody. I am Patricia Sibilia. I'm with the League of Women Voters of Albany County. Um, we do a lot of stuff around voter engagement, voter education. So tonight's session, we're going to do what I call train the trainer, which is to make sure that everyone who has any engagement with doing tabling or reaching out to voters has level set knowledge on everything, and then you can go and you can help others get trained. What I did is put together a little bit of an outline for myself, but it's also in our Google Drive. So as part of the league being part of the larger coalition around the Capital District, um, we set up a Google Drive that people can access. If you don't have access to it, you can reach out and we can give you access. But I put this flow together that it can be shared and people can see it there. So as I started to say before, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And I'm going to try and get to them at the end so I could get through everything first. But at the same time, if there is anything where you can't hear me, I'm going too fast, then just with me sharing the screen, I'm not going to see everyone and I'm not going to see the chat. So just somebody unmute and just, yell at me. I'm good with that. So I do like interaction, and I'm hoping that this is really helpful. So the first thing I'm going to do is to share my screen and to bring up the what I call the Train the Trainer outline. I'm hoping that everybody can see this okay. I'm moving around my Zoom stuff so that I can see it. Hopefully this is a good size for you. All right, so there's my email address. It's my first and last name with ny@gmail.com. And we'll start out by saying the whole effort here is not necessarily get people registered to vote, but you want to get them educated and engaged. You want them actually to get out and vote besides, so they might already be registered. And they may not be sure, are they still registered or not? So it's not, hey, let's get them registered. It's let's get them ready to vote, get them educated and engaged. So where can you focus your efforts and prepare to do one of these sessions? Well, you could possibly target certain audiences. So actually in the Google Drive I got from the Albany County Board of Elections. So it's just Albany. I did get a listing of areas where, or actually people with their street addresses where they are registered, but they don't turn out. So that's available, but we know our low turnout areas. We generally do. So you want to always target those pretty high on the list. Then you could be doing busy stores. So we talked about like a Dollar General or whatever. The league does for National Voter Registration Day, we actually do the Price Chopper stores across multiple counties. You could do colleges and high schools. But also do want to notice, as part of the coalition, we don't want to duplicate our efforts. And we want to not reinvent the wheel. So we'll be sharing a lot of information with you. But when it comes to high schools, for instance, the league has a very strong program where we register. We work with all of the high schools in the county, in Albany County, to actually work with the teachers and the students to make sure we do registration events. You can do it in public parks. You can do it at fairs and festivals. If you're going to the Latin Fest this coming weekend, you'll see us there. We'll be doing that one. You can do sporting events, arenas, and entertainment events. So wherever people are gathered, obviously you could do religious organizations, not just our own faith, but look to do it multiple faiths. Senior citizens and nursing homes is a hot one. Subsidized housing centers. So I know Ida Yarborough, there was a lot of movement that went on there as they redid those buildings. So a lot of people need to be re-registered. And I know we're working there with them on that. We have a jails initiative that we do with a bunch of other organization. So that's actually something, the majority of people in the jails are eligible to vote. It takes a little extra, how you do it, but we have a program there. And think about businesses or big employers, anywhere where people are really gathering. So as you get ready for this, you want to make sure you really have the proper permissions if needed. So a lot of times it means if you're working, for instance, with a store, that you are getting their permission. Some places may require you have some insurance or a permit. You just have to look and see if that's necessary, and make sure that you're covered. You don't want to create a situation, a negative situation, because you're not properly prepared. Before you do it, you want to publicize and get the word out. That may mean putting up flyers in the area, using your network, basically sending out an email. Hey, we'll be doing voter education on this date at this place at this time. And basically word of mouth, talk it up. Just make sure people know, because it's an opportunity for them and it's an opportunity for you. And if you are in a store, don't overlook the employees as well as the customers. I can always remember the first time I did a Price Chopper, it was the employees who were just as well interested. They didn't recognize, we were focusing at first on the customers, but the employees also needed help. And I know, we've talked about the McDonald's, and I'm sure there you got young people, as well as those who are, probably may not be fully registered and need to be followed up with. Okay, so now we're getting into the materials and the knowledge that are needed. So I would say you want to make sure you review and become familiar with at least these two things. This should not be a number. This should just be like that. And one is the New York State Board of Elections. So this is going to help you, and I'll switch over to that. You can see the New York State Board of Elections, and every county has their own Board of Elections, but the New York State is the most comprehensive. It really has ways to register to vote, ways to register to vote, and then ways to vote. And if you look at the voter registration process right off, it's going to tell you what it is you qualify in order to register. So you have to be a US citizen, you have to be 18 years old, but you may pre-register at 16 or 17, but you cannot vote until you're 18. So the year that somebody turns 18, their birthday must be on the election day or before in order for them to vote. But we like to get them 16 or 17 because that's their first real interaction with state government. And so let's get them. This was a change that happened in 2019 when there was a massive set of legislation that passed to help voting in New York State. New York State was pretty low at the bottom when you come to look at its voting regulations, and we made a couple of steps up. You must be a resident of the state and the county, the city, or the village for at least 30 days before the election. Not be in prison for a felony conviction, but if you've had a felony conviction, as long as you're not currently serving, you have the right to vote. So if you're out on parole or probation, you can still register and vote. Not be adjudged mentally incompetent by a court, and not claim the right to vote elsewhere. And this is the piece that I really like here. If you're unsure if you're already registered to vote, you can check your registration status here. And if you click it, what's going to happen is, yeah, I'm going to do it just so that you see, because it gives you quite a bit of information. And I think it's really helpful. And this is what you would do if you were talking to someone at your table and they're like, well, I'm not sure, I haven't voted in a couple of years. So you can go and fill it out, have them fill it out. Oh my, oh, I put the wrong zip code. I put my old zip code. And you will see, first of all, it gives me my location. So one of the things to be aware of is that with redistricting in 2020, a lot of people aren't aware that their location may have changed. So right there, it tells me where am I supposed to go for voting. And it gives me, if I pull this down, it gives me you would go to see the early voting sites. It gives me the days and the times for all the different sites that are in Albany County. So you see the different sites that are there. But most importantly, it tells me I'm registered Democrat, I'm an active voter, and it gives me the information about my district itself. What are my my actual district, my congressional, my county district, what town, what ward I'm in, and so forth. So that's really helpful. But if I go back really to the General Board of Elections site, you can see that there's ways to register online, and you would need a New York.gov ID. All right. And this is something that I think is probably the best way to get people to register. It could be a two-step process. They may need to set up a new ID. But this way, it's going to go directly in to the Board of Elections and be checked first through the software that everything is good to go. But we can also talk about the fact that there are registration forms. So you can get them in English or Spanish. And if you just click on it, you're going to get the form. It can get printed. You can get them as well from the Board of Elections. And you would basically also, it talks about how to return it, but you can always, of course, register in person at the Board of Elections or any agency-based voter registration site. So there are, the whole thing with New York State was, if I'm interacting with the state, let me make sure that in a significant way, let me make sure that I can register there. I would caution people this whole online registration is fairly new. It's actually a year and change old, but it used to be that you could register through the Department of Motor Vehicles. We have found, and the Board of Elections in Albany County has basically told us that that's problematic. So I would stay away from doing it that way. And if somebody does register through DMV, they really should double check basically their registration to make sure that it went through. And there's registered by mail where you can say, send me the form and I'll complete it, and making change to your registration. Let me go back to my outline here for a minute. So I also wanted to introduce Vote 411. So vote411.org is a tool that is owned nationally by the League of Women Voters. It used to be used by other organizations, but the League bought them out. And it is a handy dandy tool. So here you can register to vote, you can check your registration, and you can find out what's on your ballot. Now that is probably the strongest piece, because what we do is, starting at the highest level, the presidential level, where our national organization fills stuff out and asks the candidate to fill things out, so does the state organizations and then the local organizations. So for instance, we'll be chasing down the district attorney candidates in Albany County, for instance, and asking them to answer questions. It also would cover what's on the back of your ballot and give you some pros and cons on that. So it is really personalized voting in the same way that you just saw with the Board of Elections. You put in your street, your city, your zip. It does have all the GIS data, so it knows exactly, again, where your voting site is and everything else. Right now, this will not become active for the candidate stuff until the Board of Elections certifies who and what are going to be on the ballot. So I believe that will be early mid-September. I think it's mid-September that we will have this active, and we can double.
September 12th will be the Board of Elections will certify, and we'll have it up on the 14th.
Thank you, Mary Kate. I should have had those dates at my at my fingertips, but I appreciate that. So we actually use we push Vote for 1-1 a lot because it is a one-stop shop for not only am I registered, but also if I want to register. But even if I do this check your registration, it's going to take me to that New York State Board of Elections website. It's hooked right in, but it's also really to get more informed before you get to the polls about what's on the ballot, what's on your specific ballot, and where the candidates have really responded. Okay, so we covered. So also, we have the league has a fair number of pamphlets and information. So as I mentioned, what we did was we set up basically a folder, a Google folder. It's got voter education materials, and there's a lot in there. So there's a voter guide in Spanish or English. There's a link to Vote 411. There's a register to vote graphic, which is basically with the QR code on it, if you're going to be walking around put it on the back of your clipboard and walk around in the audience. That's helpful there. Oops, come on, go back. Oh, why is that not working for me? Oh, hold on. Of course it doesn't want to. Oh, let's try that again. Hold on, folks. I seem to have. I apologize. And there are actually several, as I said, several pamphlets. If you need some, we can get them for you. We have some, or you can get them from our state offices. So information about individuals with disability, homeless, criminal convictions, college students, and I'll walk through some of those in a minute. We have documents that are helpful for first vote. So someone who is actually voting for the very first time, that can be a little daunting. And so we have some stuff about that. And I just added today, there is an election security one-pager that walks through election security stuff. So there's a lot of materials here. And they're available to people who really request access to, or if you don't already have, the Get Out the Vote Coalition folder. It also includes our calendar of events, which we are outlining basically what's already been people who are we know of, where we're covering things and where we plan on covering things, so that again we don't duplicate. So let's see here. So maybe I will talk about the fact that homeless can register. They actually, they can either put in their address of their shelter, but if they are people who are totally on the street, and the pamphlet will walk you through this, then you would actually put the cross streets of where they are as basically their point of their home. And then the Board of Elections should work with them. Previously incarcerated, we already said, only if you're serving a felon, currently serving a felony. You cannot, anyone else can. This is not well known. It was recently changed, I think a year or so ago, where it used to exclude if you were on parole, but they changed it so that only if you're incarcerated and convicted of a felon. Students are a little bit different. Students have the right to vote where they live or where they go to school. Local Board of Elections like the students to vote at home. It's easier for them, but they can register actually where they go to school. And we've been told by the Albany County Board of Elections that if they're voting, if they're actually going to school in SUNY Albany, which actually covers multiple districts, you should probably ask them to put the name of their quad on the application. That's the easiest way for them to process those. Individuals with disabilities have certain rights, and it's important that they be able to vote, so they can change what location they want to vote at, for instance, if it doesn't accommodate them. There are stuff, there's a ballot marking device at every single poll site for people with disabilities. So you can take a look at these pamphlets and learn more about them. So there's new registrations versus change of name, address, or party changes. It's all the same form. It's all absolutely the same. Okay, so we talked about the online registration. We have a QR code that'll take you there. I've already talked about avoiding the DMV site process. It's always been somewhat problematic in how those systems interact. There's paper registrations and there's English and Spanish. So let me see. So I have this next sheet is not one that New York State League of Voters has, but we have, and I'll show it to you for a minute. It's a two-sided document. It gives you how to fill out a New York State voter registration form. Remember, it must be in blue or black ink only. And it goes through, and I'll walk through it once we bring up the form. I'll kind of walk through it while you guys look at it. But the back side, so we do it two-sided, has pretty much something people can walk away with or use while they're doing it, which is the Vote 411, where you can check your registration, where to vote, what races are on the ballot, what the candidates' positions are, and information on any ballot proposals. That QR code is right here. It does require a New York Gov.ID. It has the New York State Board of Elections website, where we just take a look at that. Change of party enrollment is really related to the primaries. You always remember it. It's the only date that stays constant year to year with the Board of Elections, and that's lovely old Valentine's Day, February 14th. If you want to change your party enrollment or add a party enrollment, that's the key date there. It also gives people for problems with voting. You have the Attorney General's office, as well as the New York State Board of Elections. People should definitely reach out if they get to the poll site and they're having any issues whatsoever. And then we have a couple of very different, very decent nonpartisan sites, factcheck.org. It checks the accuracy of political ads and candidate allegations. And Vote Smart, one of my favorites, basically is lets you really know more about the political candidates, who's financing their campaigns, what their issues are, and what their positions are on certain issues. So they can use that. And we get into what are the key dates for this upcoming general election. So obviously Tuesday, November 5th, the election day, October 26th, last day to postmark voter registration form or register in person, they should say, not Preston, to vote in the general election. I guess I have to fix that. But it's also October 26th is the first day of early voting. So that day is very key. You can both register and vote on the same exact day if you do it in person. Gives you the dates for the change of address, if you want to receive those for the general election. The last date to postmark, email, or fax an application for an absentee ballot. So that's key because you're applying for the absentee ballot, and then you have to get that ballot. And that's why on November 4th, you actually can apply in person for that absentee ballot and vote on the same day. So that's key. Early voting, another one of the 2019 legislation that passed, which introduced poll books in our area. But you need to check the sites and the hours for each day. It's not always all day long like it is on election day, November 5th. And as I said, the last day to change a party enrollment is February 14th. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the actual ballot. I need to keep getting the Zoom stuff out of the way. So that I can walk you through what that up. Here we go. I'm going to do it in English because I know English. And I'm going to try and make this a little bit bigger because I want to point out certain things. All right. So, and you can also print these, by the way. And it tells at the top, registering the vote. To register, you must be send or deliver this form, verifying your identity. So there's certain ones that are absolutely must be filled out. Are you a citizen? Obviously, has to be filled out. Are you your qualifications? Will you be 18? Obviously needs to be filled out. Or are you going to be 16 and then you'll you'll get fully registered when you're 18. Obviously, your first and last name, your birth date is key. Gender is optional, as is your phone and your email. But I will tell you that phone and email are sometimes extremely helpful because if there's anything wrong with your application, then your registration application, then the Board of Elections is going to try and reach you. If they don't have your phone or your email, they're going to try and do that via mail, which might not be very timely. So then you fill out the address of where you live. And if you don't get mail it there, and you have a PO box, you need to fill out that. Otherwise, you can skip it if it's the same. You don't necessarily need to fill out the voting history. I've seen people struggle over this. It's not required. They can fill it out if they want. If your voting information has changed, again, this is optional. You can skip it, but it may be helpful for them to process your registration if you have a change faster. Now, for identification, you only need to select one of these, either your state DMV number, in other words, your license number, or the last four of your social security number, which most people know. If you do not have either of these, you can still register. However, you will probably be challenged for identification when you enter into the poll site and go to vote. A political party, you must make one selection, either to say no party, but I usually let people know that if they don't enroll in a political party, they will not be able to take place in a primary because New York is what's called a closed primary state. Having worked the polls many years, the last primary, I had a person come in and she was registered as a Working Families Party. And she said, I don't understand why I can't vote in the Democratic primary. And I said, because you're registered in the Working Families Party. So you should try and make it clear to people that it's only where that particular party is having a primary. That's the only time. I've mentioned before, I'll say it again, I do know people who reverse which party. Some Republicans, for instance, in Democratic, in Albany County, which is heavily Democratic, some of the Republicans actually register as Democrats because they want to say in the primary for the Democratic Party. So you are not held to voting at all on those political party lines. It's just where you participate in the actual primary. So there are optional questions. If I need to apply for an absentee ballot, and people can do absentee ballot one time or set it as I always want an absentee ballot, or I'd like to be an election day worker. Having done that, it's quite a rewarding experience. It's on a presidential election. It's also quite challenging. But the key is that you have to swear and affirm. So people sign it and they date it. You will see this $5,000. I'll be convicted for $5,000. There is voter fraud in certain cases with, not this, but we've seen it on absentee ballots. But regardless, when you see somebody fill this out, you need to basically see, can you read everything clearly? If you can't read it clearly, the Board of Elections can't read it clearly. So do not take a voter registration form from anyone unless everything is clear to you. And you can help them to make it clearer by rewriting next to it or clarifying in some ways, because you want them to have everything clear as a bell. Okay. Where was I? Let's see. I lost my space down here. All right. Plan for turning in paper registrations. They can either be mailed in by the person filling it out or delivered to the Board of Elections. Usually good to have an envelope for completed forms so that they stay safe. You really want to treat those like they're gold. That's somebody's ability to vote. And I always tell people, please check in 2 weeks to ensure the registration is complete. And that's where you can send them to either Vote 411 or you can send them to pretty much the Board of Elections website, as we looked at. The voting calendar, I pretty much covered. I covered Vote 411. The absentee ballot application forms and process. Please make sure if somebody does an absentee ballot application, you should have some available at your table, but let them know when they go to process it. It's important that they follow the procedures in terms of how to handle the envelope in the envelope, I call it. They'll be asked to sign that and seal it. And their form inside obviously is anonymous, but the outer envelope is important. And I didn't mention that sometimes people come in and the first things that happens when an absentee ballot or a regular ballot gets cast is we're looking at comparing signatures. So if somebody's signature on file is very old, it could get challenged. So sometimes I tell people, if you registered 20 years ago and your registration's been very active, if you think your signature has changed a lot, just fill out a new form and basically put in a new signature, and it will overlay the old one. We talked about early voting. We do have that first vote literature, which is we have some pamphlets that you can have on the tables. I usually explain to people that there's an affidavit ballot process at the polls. If there's any issues, you're not stopped from voting. Instead, you fill out an affidavit ballot, which means that you get an envelope that looks exactly like the registration form. It asks you all the same information and you fill it out. And then inside of that is your anonymous ballot. So people should not be turned away at the polls. They'll instead fill out an affidavit ballot, which will then be looked at and determined if that person is is actually eligible to cast the ballot. You want to have on your table or think about having a remind me to vote kind of thing. So sometimes we use postcards for that. So they can fill out the postcards and we'll mail them back. You can keep a handwritten list. If people want to be reminded, you can do that, and then make sure you follow up though. And the League of Women Voters of New York State has a text message process where a service where if you text Vote New York to 474747, it'll send out reminders, all related to voting. So early voting started, today's election day, primary day, all of that. You want to also have handouts that people can walk away with. What the league does a lot is we've created, we get printed business cards, a Vote 411 business card. So that's pretty handy to basically just hand to people, and they walk away with everything that they need right there on the card. We can use door hangers, bookmarkers, or a flyer with key information. So look and see, what we have in our repository, if there's anything you think is you want to add. My last section is how to engage your audience. So you want to smile, look upbeat, make eye contact. You want to stand in front of your table, not behind it. You can have one person sitting, you can have one person in the front, but you want to reach out to those passing by, and it's easier if you're in front of your table, oftentimes, rather than sitting, looking, less engaging, with those going by. I generally don't ask, are you registered to vote? I think you don't get some great answers on that. You get more engagement if you ask, do you know the status of your voter registration? Or do you need any information about voting or where to vote? So something that opens the door a lot more for conversation. You can work the crowd with a clipboard. You know, I showed you that graphic that you can put on the back of your clipboard. So you're walking around, people see it. You can have them check their registration status online. We already looked at that. You should have some giveaways at your table, dollar store candy at a minimum. But you know, something to get them to come over. The kids often come and then the parents follow. We have either a civics quiz or a new citizens test. You can have that up there so people, oh, you know, let me see what I know. They can test their knowledge, and it might even educate them a little bit more about civics. You want to dress up your table to be eye-catching, have some key information displayed in stands to be easily seen. And I would say, don't forget your weights for your papers if you're outdoors. I can't tell you how many times I went chasing after papers. And you maybe want to have your organization's information at the on the table for them to take away so that they stay engaged. Now, the last thing I'll just show you is that this is a document that is a league-specific document, but helpful, that is also in the Google Drive. And one of the things that it does is it covers a lot of what I just did. But one of the things is, you know, if they say, I don't have the time right now, how you can respond. I don't know if I'm registered. I don't vote because my vote doesn't count. They're all crooks. I don't pay any attention. You know, so it gives you some helpful hints. But I would say do not go get into it with somebody, because you'll end up more, you know, in some cases, you might turn them off more than you turn them on. So I will stop sharing now. I feel like I've been rambling. Let me take a look at the chat and we'll see. Voter registration laws change constantly. That's absolutely true. So everyone should, that's why I'm giving you those websites to really stay up to date. It's really, oh, you guys couldn't see the rest of my stuff? Somebody should have, you can only see my outline? Somebody should have said something to me. Oh, man. Somebody should have screamed at me.
Patricia, whatever the last thing you showed that you said was a league thing, if you can show us that, that was right at the end. We didn't see
Man, I'm
that.
going to take you through. Why didn't somebody yell at me?
We could see most of, we could see the end. It was just one part initially, I think.
Okay, all right, hold on. All right. So this is the document that I said was the league specific. All right. And it really gets down into the bottom, towards the bottom-ish. And this is really because I just downloaded it rather than do it from the drive. And, you know, if they say how you can respond, some of that. And then you probably didn't see, and tell me if you can see it this time. When I was going through the instructions, there's a two-sided, and a two-sided really is what some people use as a takeaway. And that's where it gives you the New York State Board of Elections, it gives you Vote 411, but it gives you the New York State Board of Elections, that online voter registration, how to handle problems with voting, fact check, Vote Smart, and the calendar. So I am sorry, guys. And did you see all of the other websites? You know, the New York State Board of Election website and Vote 411?
Yes.
Okay, I am sorry. Are we still looking for volunteers for National Voter Registration Day? Oh, and we're still looking for Price Chopper and Market 32. So one of the things is we're here as a coalition. It's the league plus a lot of good organizations. And yes, we are actually, one of the coalition discussions is potentially how to share volunteers across events. And that's why we have a calendar of where events are going to be held. Because if people, for instance, the league just put out a email that was basically asking for volunteers, but it also said in it, if you can't do any of these dates, any of the league dates, let us know, because we can get you potentially engaged in other events that other organizations are doing. So we're going to try and see if we could cross over where there's a need as much as possible. Do people have questions? Did I go too fast? Is there anything that I didn't cover? Did you say that we have automatic? No, you don't have automatic access to the league's drive. You have to send me, and I will put my email here in the chat. Oh, it's Gmail, not just regular mail. You have to request access. With that, I will then give you access to that folder. What are the hours people are volunteering? Well, that ranges. Does anyone besides myself want to talk about some of, Pastor Michael, do you want to talk, or someone else talk about the efforts that are going on with the coalition?
Yeah, I could talk about it a bit. One is the 100 Black Men. Can you hear me? The 100 Black Men. We have 2 locations that we're doing voter registration at next weekend. On Saturday, we're at Friendship Baptist Church. No, I'm sorry, Friendship House, 955 State Street. And we're going to be there from 11:30 to 2. And then on Sunday, we're at Friendship Baptist Church from 12 o'clock to 2 or later, depending on the activity. I would like to be able to get the listing of the locations that you have, so we can provide people, we can have people go there. Can I get that through email?
Don't put some pants on, just cut it off. If you give me a go to the store, do that first.
Patricia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I was on mute. I was asking others to go on mute, and there I was talking to myself.
Yeah.
So there's some people who are already in the coalition access to the drive. And that calendar, and I'll share it again right now. That calendar is basically available to them, but I can also, I think I might have sent it with a link, and it's not complete. It's only what was told to us thus far. So for instance, Mr. Harris, your stuff is not listed in there. So let me show it to you. Hold on.
Okay.
So let me get back to the right screen first. Okay, so the coalition as a whole, right? We've got the press release is coming up in a couple of days.
Okay.
And then there's the mass registration day that we have. So we have stuff that is going on both by right now. All I have is the NAACP and the league stuff in here. So you can see that, again, we don't want to duplicate efforts. We want to work together. So the league is doing stuff with Trinity Alliance in their mass food distribution stuff. The NAACP is doing stuff with the Capitol Rep, for instance, and some of the churches, obviously. We're working with the public libraries. There's some stuff that is still getting worked on where we've been reached out to. So for instance, we get the the community center at Ida Yarborough. That's where they said that most residents have moved, so we've been approached, but you know, we're still working on that. And the Albany County Legislative Black Caucus is doing something, but they're still figuring it out. I think there were some emails on that today. We're doing this should be fair and not fire, FAIR. The Upper Madison Street Fair. So it's only as strong as, and the coordination can only take place well, if we all contribute and communicate, between us. And that's where there may be people who need to, who want to do something. They can't do it on one day. They'll do it on another day if they can. There's a lot of people who are excited, about this stuff.
Patricia, this is Valerie.
Oh, yep.
I just want to say that, and there's going to be a voter registration at the program that's happening this weekend. It's a 3-day event, the Jamel Tarver Community Event. So I'm not sure. I think we have to double check. I'm not sure if 100 Black men is going to be there, but ACLT will be there. And I just wanted to put this out there that the times they vary. And you don't have to stay there the whole time. So if you could volunteer an hour or two, or however many hours that you can volunteer to get people registered to vote, we just welcome whatever hours that you can provide.
Sounds good. We just need that information, Valerie. Patricia, do you have you want to be the repository of all the locations? We'll send
Yeah,
it to you?
I'm the clearinghouse.
Okay, so I'm going to send you the locations that we have, and Valerie, I assume that you'll do the same, and we'll be able to participate in those.
Yep.
events.
Okay.
Yeah, again, if you guys want access to the drive, please send me your email.
Okay.
Because that's what I need to have. So I'm trying to keep up with the chat here. But yes, I need to have your email access in order to get this. So I know you guys, all registered for this event.
Yes.
So I think the NAACP is hosting this. We probably have email addresses for you via that. So we can send out something. Can work with the NAACP to send out something that says, if you don't have access to the website, send it to Patricia Sibilia ny@gmail.com. And I know some stuff is coming through in the chat. But NAACP, I'll need you to help me save the chat because it's not my Zoom. And then send it to me if that's okay. But this is recorded for a reason. And what we're going to do is, I'd like to make sure that the recording, if we get a copy on the league side, we'll try and post it on our YouTube site so that it's available to anyone who knows how to get to the YouTube channel for the League of Women Voters of Albany. But it's all about spreading the word and working your network, and it's exciting that I think what we're doing. I'm excited about it. All right. So I do see, I'll put in again my email because I think someone's asking, what else is there in the chat that I'm missing? Does anyone, you can scream out questions or comments, whatever works for you guys. I just put mine again there.
I just have a question. I'll
Yep.
scream out.
Good.
So if you sign up for a voter registration table, and it's your first time, will somebody else be there to, are there like several people at each of these events listed, and who brings the literature and the table? Who brings the table?
Yep. Nope. That's a good question. So it depends on, there's multiple organizations in the coalition.
Mhm.
So each coalition that's having events is going to coordinate, bringing the stuff to the tables, getting the table set up and that. Usually, I know with the league stuff, we try and pair a newbie with someone who knows what they're doing. We try and have two. But again, it's also making them comfortable by having them watch this video or whatever. But yes, we try and pair people together.
Thank you.
First time's always a lot of fun. Not as, it is. And come visit us at the Latin Fest and witness what it's like.
Okay. I would like to say that we're going to be the Men on the Mission ACLT Albany Land Trust. We're going to be at Empire Christian Center this Sunday. We're going to be at two events, well, about 4 events this Saturday and Sunday. Well, we're going to make sure that we get everyone that has volunteers to make sure that they give those sites to you, Pat, so
Yep.
that we could just have a good count of how many people how many people we got to register this weekend together united. And I think it's gonna be great. And it'd be nice to get other people involved as well, just to share how did we do together as a whole.
I agree. What the league does, just so that you know, is we try and keep a tally actually when we do tabling to figure out how many registrations did we do and how many interactions. Because sometimes you're not registering, but you're actually making an impact. So we actually try and keep track of that, and we're stats, I wouldn't say driven, but it helps to just make you feel like you can pat yourself on the back for all you did. Because you're doing more than you really realize when you're out there in the community.
Okay.
Oh, Patricia,
Uh,
if I could
yeah.
make a comment.
Yeah,
One is that I think this training's been excellent. And what the thing that I'm walking away really feeling good about is all of the activities that's going on.
Yep.
I see that we have a lot of activity and it's great. And as you can see, I'm anxious to get the listing from everybody that's doing things, because we can send some of our members to those events also. And one other thing, I just want to be able to get some of the literature that you have, because we were at in Schenectady when they did the Juneteenth event, and we were right next to you, the League of Women Voters, and you had some good literature that we didn't have. So what's the best way to go about getting that? Should I do it online or should I visit your office?
So it's probably it's in the repository on the Google Drive, but if you print it, and I think you're probably talking about the brochures for, that stuff. It looks better if you don't print it off of the website. You can.
Yes.
But you can always go to the state office. The League of Women Voters, New York State, is in downtown Albany. And they walk in there and they'll help you with literature. We
Thanks.
have some extras that we probably can give some people, but not a ton to give to everybody. We do ask, since we are nonpartisan, that really it's important for us. Our name is golden and we don't want it tarnished in any way. So if you're using our literature, make sure you're nonpartisan. Don't be talking about candidates or parties. That's the one thing that we really ask of you. Let's see what else. We always try to recommended that new voter registration volunteers join. Yep, I recommend that they join. Yeah, so there's National Voter Registration Day, which is actually across the entire country, across all organizations. So there is this big push this coming weekend, which I think is great. But at the same time, we have another go round with National Voter Registration Day, and I think we can definitely, push and see about sharing volunteers, because the more we do, the more we impact people, and it will get public attention. So we've been in the papers before, then the press has covered us for this, and it should be all of us doing this, and I think we are.
Okay,
Yep.
nice.
Yep. Is there anything else?
Patricia, it's Pat Maxon. You
Mhm.
mentioned handling those filled out applications like gold. And I
Yes,
guess I just wanted to say it again because if we have a group of people, we want to make sure you know exactly who's going to take them. You know exactly they know where to take them, and they don't keep them hanging around for a period of time. It's imperative that they are treated like gold.
agree. And the other thing is that if you're taking them, you should take them to the Board of Elections. Unfortunately, the Board of Elections in Albany will not take registration forms for other counties. So you either can mail them, stick a whole bunch into, if they're going to another county, stick them all, a whole bunch into an envelope and mail them, or, you know, take a drive. I know at one point when I went to Schenectady, they took them for every county and they just inter-office them. So it depends on your Board of Elections and what they're doing. But yes, don't hold on to them for any length of time. Try and get them into the Board of Elections as soon as possible.
I thought it would be better, like, wherever you get them from, that's where you return them. So if we get ours from the NAACP or the 100 Black Men or from the League of Women Voters, Urban League, wherever we get ours from, we don't have them. But when we get them, if we get them filled out, we're going to turn them back into whoever we get them from so they could turn them in.
Pastor
Sounds
Mike,
good.
I would suggest that that's another handoff.
Well,
It,
well,
go ahead.
it would be like we're working for that particular group.
Okay, but I think it's timing wise, it might be better to go directly to the Board of Elections. If
In
you,
Albany? That's
We
fine.
could do that, Pastor Mike. We could do that.
That's fine. Okay.
We could do that.
yeah, I mean, and again, though, when you get them filled out, make sure they're complete, make sure you can read them. And actually, here's a little known fact. People can turn in a voter registration form without actually even signing it, and it's still
Mhm.
valid. They're just going to get challenged when they go to the poll site for ID. So, but it is important that it's best to have it filled out clearly and completely so that things just fly through, and tell the person, check in 2 weeks, check in a week, whatever. And if you don't, contact your local Board of Elections.
And make sure that everybody fills them out in blue or black ink, because some of the high school kids, when they did a high school registration, filled them out in green ink, and the Board of Elections rejected them.
Wow.
Mm. Yeah, that's important.
Can someone talk a little bit about the importance of voting in your city and your county elections? Because some people vote in the big elections, but then they don't vote in their own county and city elections, and which is very, very important.
Mhm.
Yep. So it's always interesting when I'm out doing tabling. People go and I say, "Are you registered?" And they go, "Oh, I don't know. When was the last election? Was it like 2 or 3 years?" And I say, "There's an election every year, and you should be voting every year." And I get kind of adamant because for me particularly, I am very locally focused. The local elections are the ones that are going to impact you the most, because they are directly impacting your services, where you live, and more importantly, I've seen a ton of races come down to a handful of votes.
Mhm.
And so your vote carries a lot more weight. Besides, those are your neighbors. You can go knock on their door. And don't forget, if your candidate didn't get elected, you know who you wanted, there's another person representing you, they still have to represent your interests. So you can definitely go knock on their door, even if you didn't vote for them. So it's important to me that the local elections, really your vote carries a lot more weight, and it has much more of a direct impact, and it's the one you can most easily influence. Getting active in your local community is the best way for you to actually not get frustrated and to actually achieve change. Now I'll get off my soapbox. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else? There is probably this year on the back of the ballot will be propositions. And it will depend where you live if there's more than one proposition, but the New York State ERA will be across the state. So let people know about that there's going to be back of the ballot initiatives. They can check Vote 411 when it's up and running with the information, to be able to see that stuff. So that's important too. I don't know what else to tell you guys. I think I'm talked out.
Well,
Any other questions, or we're all done? Everyone happy?
absolutely.
Excellent.
Good
Excellent.
job, Patricia.
Yep.
Good job,
Pleasure.
Patricia.
My pleasure. Absolutely. And again, we'll let people know about the recording being available once we take us a couple days to do that. So everybody have a great night. That
You
wasn't
too.
too bad. It was just about an hour. We did okay. All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Have a good night.
Don't get off.
Thank you.
Don't get off.
Good night.
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm gonna save the chat. Now, do you know how to upload the recording to YouTube, Pat? You're on mute.
I do. Okay.
Okay,
So-
so let me just, hold on, let me just save the chat.
Yeah, because there were people sending their stuff in via the chat. That's where I was seeing if I could even. Save chat. So I can save the
You
chat.
got it? Okay,
No, did I? It didn't go anywhere.
hold on. Let's go up here. Save chat. Okay, I say, I don't know where it is, but I click save, so.
Yeah, and I'll look too. I'll look too to see, because let me look in my file system, because sometimes it just automatically
I'm gonna
puts it
stop
there.
the recording.